Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to yet another conversation with franchise executives. Today, we're going to cover several things. Obviously, the state of where business stands today, 2nd, 2020. And we're going to get into some of the future of Discovery Days and what that could mean as we continue to navigate this. Looking at the news from the night, we talked about this on yesterday's afternoon session. We're trying to look at the trends of what is happening in Italy of new cases per day to have some sort of insight of what's going to happen in the United States. Cases went up again yesterday in Italy, so it seems like it's kind of going like that as it continues to decrease. It's not as high as it was, but the numbers keep on going down. The reason we're paying attention to this is because we want to start seeing indicators that things are going to return to normal. Because once we see that, now all of a sudden development starts changing, especially in a world where many more filed for unemployment in the last 7 days. To be a positive opportunity for franchise brands, but obviously we're navigating the health crisis at the same time, so it becomes somewhat complex. So would love to hear the thoughts of our panel. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Lisa, I'm going to start with you. Just general thoughts on what's happening from a business, personal, and franchise perspective in your world.
Well, for me, the word of the day, and has been for a couple of weeks, pivot. I'm pretty impressed with how this organization, that is Biggby Coffee, has been able to quickly regroup and provide support to existing franchise owners literally on a daily basis. So I get to brag about them because I'm pretty new to the team, Nick. So it's not self-praise, but I get to see them in action and put their values in action and, really just put themselves out there in a very authentic way for the franchise community. And of course, as related to this topic, also to prospects. So we had an open house planned for Monday, March 30th in East Lansing. We thought we were going to be giving tours and making beverages for our guests. And instead, it was on a webinar like everything else we're doing every day.
Appreciate that insight. And actually, I'm going to add Bob into here too. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Hi there.
So Lisa just gave an update on what's going on from a business, personal, and franchise perspective. We'd love to hear yours too, and then we'll flip it over to Eric.
Yeah, no, we had a 250 unit chain but we only have 75% of our stores open right now, and of those stores, the revenue is compromised by 25%. So that's the state of our business from a revenue generation perspective. We still have stores opening. We've got some opening in North Carolina and Ohio, and then also we're still staying in communication with prospects.
Appreciate that. And Eric, from your world, same sort of update.
Yeah, so thanks, Nick. And, Happinest, we have 3 home service concepts: Lawn Doctor, Mosquito Hunters, and ecomaids. And, from a Fran dev perspective, we have what are considered to be essential non-contact services. So we haven't seen a dramatic slowdown in interest, and I think those are kind of the reasons why, and we can get into that later. But from a Fran Dev perspective, things are certainly not what they were 2 months ago, 3 months ago, but we're still able to help good people explore, move forward, and understand that, look, what we're doing are still considered to be essential services. From a franchisee perspective, been on quite a few calls with our executive team, with our owners, and we had big plans for this year, still have big plans. We can still do our businesses, but we've certainly had to pivot, to use Lisa's term, a bit, and adjust. And I think by and large, our system as a whole, our franchisees are positive. We're still able to do business, which is wonderful, and we feel horrible all of us do for retail and storefront-based businesses that, are having to shut down for a period of time. But from that perspective, at least on the happiness side, we're positive and forward-thinking and working very closely with our owners daily on finding ways to help them keep moving forward and listening, getting their feedback, and keeping our system staying positive and forward-thinking. So,
it's interesting to me that and I don't know if you guys are getting a little feedback, Nick, or you can hear me well.
Yeah, you're okay.
I'm good. So it's interesting because Lawn Doctor, ecomaids, and Mosquito Hunters, mostly, service-based. Biggby Coffee is coffee, right? So what's interesting to me is in many ways, these are sort of staple products or staple services. And one common theme we're seeing, and something Nick and I talk about very often, is even in this situation, which before I was just reading news about a baseball coach, 30 years old. But in this situation, while we're seeing lead generation go down, we're also seeing quality go up, and I think big opportunities. I'm curious, Bob, because to me, when I look at Biggby, I don't know if I like the large B and the orange and black logo, which I think is awesome. But coffee is a staple product, right? 250 units is pretty incredible, but do you view this as now an opportunity to take that strength? And because it seems to me you have an opportunity to really accelerate on the other side of this from a franchise sales, franchise development perspective.
Yeah, that's a great question. And implied in your question, you're absolutely right. So just before we got into this morass about a year back, we had designed a modular unit. We refer to it as B cubed. It's drive-through only. Yeah. And it gets produced in the same state we are. We're from Michigan, up in Alpena. It's fully kitted out. So when it arrives, all the equipment is there, down to the hand washing sticker, by the sink. Everything is there. And this comes in, it gets loaded down by a crane on a pad. You hook up electric, sewer, water, you order inventory, and away you go. So, if we even consider the idea of building out a retail location today, how would you get all those workers there? How would you get all that done, and so on and so forth? But we actually have a solution that's good, not just on the other side, although we believe that that'll be a firecracker on the other side, but it's actually good right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because one of the things we represent emerging brands, and so when I'm speaking with our clients, I'm finding management teams are digging deep their core values, core strengths, and really focusing on a consistent plan, which, Bob, you're communicating now, which is, hey, we've had this plan and we're going to roll forward. And I think that's where the success is going to come on the other side of this. I really do. And then Eric, I'm curious. So because you have Lawn Doctor, which is a well-established brand, and then you have some emerging concepts, right? So are you differentiating in the development space now? Although Lawn Doctor is probably sold out, right? Are you seeing a difference on the established brands versus emerging on the development end?
Well, and you know the story as good as anybody, Charles, in your relationship with our chairman, Scott Frith. Lawn Doctor, it's a 53-year-old brand, and it's survived a number of economic storms and twists and turns over 5 decades. So there's some history there, which brings some comfort, I believe, to an aspiring franchise owner, knowing that we've dealt with some of those climate issues and changes before. And there is territory open, by the way, a selfless plug for Lawn Doctor. We still have open areas around the country, but with the acquisition of Mosquito Hunters in May of 2018, and of course, ecomaids, our newest brand we acquired in May of 2019 officially, leveraging the history of Lawn Doctor and our infrastructure and our systems in place. We have a robust, as you know, marketing program, and support staff. It tends to help people even looking at an earlier adopter kind of pioneer play, such as a Hunters or an ecomaids, become more comfortable knowing that the sister company, the umbrella of Happinest and Lawn Doctor has been behind it and kind of moved through a lot of different changes. But there's a lot of good activity with our brands. And I don't just say it to make myself feel good as the vice president of development or our team, but I'm hearing more now from consultants that we work with. It used to be, are you recession proof or recession resistant? Now it's, are you essential? Is this something that you can show a candidate that this business is going to keep going even during these challenging times? So your question to me was, is it different? I think to a degree, yes, because there isn't a lot of history or validation for that specific brand. But there is that backing of the mothership with Happinest and Lawn Doctor that provides a little more peace of mind right now.
I would love to know more with both sides and whatever side wants to take this question first on just the way the mindset is changing week by week. If we go back to when we started these conversations 3 weeks ago, within the comments, there's someone saying, I'm still going to IHOP, everything's fine. And then you switch into one more week and it's like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to go to IHOP anymore. And now it's like, stay away from IHOP. I'm not going there at all. So the mindset has shifted from, it seems, the public that maybe we are taking it a little bit more seriously and being smarter with social distancing. Alongside the development standpoint, how are you guys doing on optimism? And I've seen some shifts that it was like, oh no, we're preparing for a huge Q3 that may have pushed or slid a little bit into Q4. And for some brands, they're now starting to talk about Q1 of next year. Where's your mindset around when does development return? How does it return? And how do you have those conversations with prospects now to coach them through the process?
So I don't mind going first. So, how have things changed? First, I think the public has become more considerate and more kind. It's like decency has returned suddenly, right? A little less self-absorbed, a little bit more caring about others. We are deemed an essential service, and the way, there's really two factors of that. One is functional food, restaurant food service takes the load off a grocery. That's why the Department of Homeland Security wants us open. And even in our state, they just approved restaurants to sell grocery items. That's how much they want us to take the load off. But the other sort of more human side of that is, going to get a Biggby coffee is 5 minutes of normalcy for somebody. So, you've been trapped in your home. You're willing to go out for groceries once a week or whatever. The ability to go through the drive-thru and get a cup of coffee is just really a precious moment for people. In terms of our approach to prospects, and this was sort of touched on earlier, for us, it's not like we're going to go full bore, although we're going to go full bore. And the reason that we can go full bore is because our brand values, right? You have to understand what our purpose is. Our purpose is we exist to support you in building a life you love. That's the purpose of our company. It has nothing to do with coffee, right? And then if you look at all of our beliefs and all of our other values, they're all wrapped up around people and care. And so, not that I'm saying this is an opportunity, like, oh, let's take advantage of the crisis or whatever, but we just happen to be so well positioned from our brand values that when we're communicating to prospects, it's not a sale. What we're doing is we're opening up the opportunity for a dialogue and have you literally come into our homes, like where I am right now, and see who we are. And see who we are in the depths of our culture. And that's the real opportunity we have, is that we have the opportunity to share our culture.
Eric or Lisa?
Yeah, I'll just tack on to that a little bit. Our discussions haven't changed. We are who we are, and I think this kind of stress just gives everybody the opportunity to see who's who. What has changed is the format, the technology. I'm supposed to be in East Lansing these 2 weeks, and I'm not. I'm in my home office in Connecticut, and we're conducting business every day, all day. We have leadership team meetings every morning. We have town hall meetings every afternoon, task force in between. So just our format has really changed. Still the same folks.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lisa. Both Bob and you have made great points. I think certainly with us, it depends on the brand. I mean, there are different services we provide. For example, with lawn care, I think people are craving normalcy and they want to see the lawn guy out fertilizing. Makes them feel good. You know, we're not able to go out and socialize like we once did, but we can still do things around the house, do our yard work, make our lawn look nice. I think with mosquito control, look, the weather's warming up. People are at home more than ever before. And I'm not sure of this. I have no data to back it up, but I don't think mosquitoes know that the economy is in flux and that there was a COVID-19 scare. So they're coming back when that weather starts to get above 50. And then with ecomaids, certainly an essential service, we're expanding a little bit our thought process into doing some more light commercial work. In addition to some of the residential cleaning. And I think there will be a period and it's not today, but with all cleaning services that are residential focused, you know, this will subside and people will want their homes cleaned, and it's a health thing more than anything. It's not just moving dirt. We want to be healthy as possible. So it depends on the brand from that perspective. But Lisa, your point about discussions not changing, I agree. The only thing I would say is maybe the tempo. And the cadence has changed a little bit. I mean, we're all in franchising, and it's always working backward in franchising, whether you're a candidate researching or you're an existing owner trying to get opened or hit milestones in your first 6 months to a year. Personally, as a leader, I've kind of worked with my team and say, look, we don't need to be as rigid right now. Let's hold our candidates in our hands like sand and help them understand this is our value. We know things are in flux right now, but let's not squeeze. And we never want to push or pressure regardless of the environment. But there is hey, we expect a decision mentality in franchising, right? Let's go. Let's have you come out to Discovery Day, meet our team. Let's make some decisions and help you move forward on this. Where I'm at today and my team is, you know, there's some uncertainty. It doesn't stop us from talking and having discussions and being proactive. And yes, we do want to have you join us on a virtual Discovery Day and make some good decisions together. But going into that, I'm a little bit looser on I expect a decision in, you know, a week after Discovery Day so we can, you know, get agreement signed and move forward. I want to give some people some space and respect the environment that we're in and know there's a little uncertainty. We don't know how long that's going to be, but it shouldn't prohibit us from being proactive and still moving forward in the process together.
What for me, and again, I have some inside information in you know, between Eric and Scott Frith, the leadership team there. I know it's values driven. Scott's a very passionate person about franchisee, the brand, and so is Eric. And so to me, it's no coincidence that what you guys are talking about, like, there's no question about success for your teams and your franchisees. What blows me away, and to this point, Lisa, I love your comment, and this touches on what Bob said too, but Lisa, your comment was the stress gives everyone the opportunity to see who's who, right? And it does. That's exactly what this is doing. And what I see in great leadership, whether it's Eric and Scott Frith, and now Bob, because now everything that Bob said, right, it's not selling because, again, you guys are going back to Bob's talking about brand values, the purpose of our company, what your beliefs are focused on, people and care. And if that really doesn't matter to you, I mean, you can't develop this now. Okay, here's our leadership plan. Let's pretend we care about everyone, because you're not going, you know, it's sincere. And these are how organizations are built. And it's the pattern we see with every leadership conversation where there's a good brand, there's a great culture, there's great leadership, there's sincerity, and no matter what the industry, if we're focused on helping people, we're going to get to the other side of this. That's what inspires me on these calls and conversations. But I love, Bob, it's not every business can articulate what's our purpose and our brand passion. And I'm paraphrasing, but I think you said something like, our beliefs are focused on people and care. And you know what? When you say that, whoever's listening knows it's sincere, right? And that's how you win. And when Eric is talking about the company and the structure, Eric's reflecting on what I know internally is a passionate group of people. So, I mean, I don't think there's any winning formula for anything other than having done everything the right way beforehand and sticking to that plan. It's just good to see.
Eric, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with your organization, but I will say that what we're hearing from Bob Fish and his partner, Mike McFall now, it's 25 years worth. This isn't about a crisis. This isn't about COVID. This is what the company is based on and has been for a long time. And this is an opportunity to shine a light on it, perhaps. But it's not new. It's not new for them. It's not new for East Lansing.
I do want to say too that, we've leveraged this technology, and something that we would have never been able to do before. My partner Mike McFall and I initiated, and that was something called an AMA, Ask Me Anything, right? And usually that's a one and done kind of deal for some celebrity or what have you, but it doesn't matter what stakeholder we're talking about in Biggby Coffee, whether it's our owner operator, their baristas, their customers, their community, the vendors, our home office, and so on. We've opened that channel up to everybody. And the AMA is simply Bob and Mike, and then it's moderated by somebody inside the company. And, if there was one word for Biggby Coffee, that word would be love. And that's a little hippy dippy for some people, but we're really into that all the way. And so, every Wednesday at 8:00, we get out there, and any one of those stakeholders, and frankly, anybody can come in and ask us anything. And there's so much misinformation, and there's so much fear, and there's so much worry that that us sort of making ourselves vulnerable in that particular moment, and us bringing back answers that are authentic in real time. They're not scripted. They're not prepared. Has been probably one of the most valuable things that we've done. And they're not a stakeholder yet, but we did have an open house electronically per video last Monday, but everybody from that was invited to the AMA too. Anyway, it's quite remarkable.
That, Nick, when we spoke with the Big Blue team, one of the statements that they focused on was leaning into their vulnerability, right? And that's another common theme we're seeing, right, is good leadership.
How do you guys see, looking into this crystal ball of what happened on the other side? And given both sides here, both types of brands happen to be well positioned for what we're going through. There are plenty of brands that were not prepared for this in the restaurant space. There were plenty of brands that did not have third-party delivery or were just starting to initiate it, that they might be behind the curve. There were plenty of brands that didn't have a leadership team that was ready to step up and say, how do we build scaffolding around our franchise owners? So you guys, both sides here end up being pretty well positioned for what happens on the other side of this. But if you look into your crystal ball, I'm very curious on some of the things that may change in franchising, whether that is a discovery day, which was a topic that we wanted to touch on, that maybe they can go a little bit more virtual, or that the research stages change and the website turns into something else. Franchisee support goes front and center in a new light under COVID-19 as a section on the development side, or frankly, maybe there's directories of brands that are actually good, that care, and here's the proof, and the proof was seen in a time of pain. But I'd love any insights that you guys have on some of the things that are going to evolve or pivot in the future of franchise. Open to whoever wants to go first.
I'll jump in to start. Just kind of looking into my crystal ball. I wish I had one of those, Nick, by the way. I'm still looking for one. Haven't seen it on the market. But, we start to look downstream a little bit at training classes in the summer months. We've, started to put together virtual training programs. And a lot of our training can be done virtually. There are some equipment aspects to like a lawn doctor, for example, that we have to work through. And we do a lot of on-the-job mentoring after a training with a franchisee. So it's hard to say when this ends. I don't think any of us, it's almost mind-blowing when you sit back and think about this. And it's like, 2 weeks ago, this has got to end by late spring or Easter, or now it's going to be another 30 to 60 days. And now it's all of a sudden I've heard things about it. What are we going to do at Christmas? What if this goes that far? Holidays. So it's mind-blowing. So I think any good franchisor right now isn't just thinking about continuing to get good activity in at the front of the funnel and continuing to support their owners at the unit level, but also how do we get people trained and prepared, the new life coming in, to take these over? Because I would venture to say most are not built to train virtually. And that may be something we all have to really strongly think about. We should all be thinking about it right now, but more and more will be doing that. But I do think, there's a lot of expense involved, as we all know, in recruitment and flights and meals and time out of the office and executives. And, from candidates' perspective, getting there for a couple of days and maybe leaving work. Or I do think this has kind of opened our eyes a little bit. I've seen franchise consultant groups do virtual things now, expos or conventions. And we all appreciate human contact. We all appreciate, getting together and seeing someone eyeball to eyeball. Discovery Day generally is really about building rapport and seeing someone face to face and breaking bread with them. And that's where a relationship is established. We have to figure out whether it's through technology. We use Zoom, for example, for our Discovery Days. It's worked out very well. Similar to this kind of format where you're seeing people and the reaction, so you can really get to know them and start that relationship. But it doesn't replace that face-to-face. And there may not be a choice. We have to do that. So I guess my crystal ball is thinking forward, technology, not just with onboarding or recruiting, but actual training and support for franchise owners is something we all need to be thinking a lot about at this stage and going forward.
Going with that point, Eric, and the discovery, I'm curious for Bob and Lisa, from a virtual perspective, how do you convey your brand values and purpose on virtual discovery days or franchisee communications? What context does that come in, and what's your thought process behind how you articulate that?
I'll take that, Bob, if you'd like. We have experience of one, and that was last Monday. It was planned to be an in-person event, but we had to pivot. But it wasn't a discovery day. It was just an opportunity for our audience to use technology to get to know us. Most members of the leadership team had a speaking role, talked about what they do, mostly focused on what Bob talked about, our values, caring, how we deal with people. And because of what we're dealing with, specifically how that has changed in these few weeks and how Bob and Mike are supporting franchise owners during this really difficult time. Everybody's just figuring it out together, but by having their open and constant communications, they're giving all stakeholders an opportunity to participate in the brainstorming, the learning, the changing, of processes and what have you. So one of the things that I talked about during that event is the value of franchising. It's right here, it's right now. We always talk about it as being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Well, imagine being an independent business owner in any of our categories, trying to deal with this in isolation. Oh my gosh. You know, we have hundreds of people on the phone every day talking through, thinking through, just trying to figure it out together. That's what franchising is, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, again, I go back to you can't create these values in a time of crisis. It is who you are. It is who you are. It's just doing what you've always been doing with different technology in a different format. And to answer Nick's crystal ball question in part, I think going forward, that's not going to go away. Going forward, we're going to be, however long it takes, still focused on technology, which, as Eric said, will create efficiencies in what we do and just making it easier. You know, we're all spending more time at home. I don't think we're going to stop liking that. You know, we're going to like not traveling as much or doing some of the things we did routinely because we were forced to during this time. And good will come out of it.
I would like to add that, because, you know, we get this question a lot. When do we come out the other side and what does it look like? And my personal perspective, and I know this is not the way it's meant, but my personal opinion on that, what's being asked there is, when do we return to normal? And we're in what is normal. This is normal. Now, it feels abnormal to us in this moment in time, but this is the new normal. And spending energy trying to figure out how we get back to normal is not a useful use of time. But what is useful is exactly what we're doing here, and that is the discovery of what the new normal is, and figuring out how fast, as an organization, you can embrace this new normal. You know, my son who's 22, has spent most of his life sitting in front of a computer communicating with people like we are right now. And I've always made fun of him. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? There's real people. Why don't you go see somebody in person? Well, I just realized that my son has been right for his last 22 years, and I've been wrong, right? And I've embraced what he is doing now. And for any of us that are sort of dragging the ball and chain of when are we going to get back to normal, that's not the right quest. So, you know, for us and in franchising in general, the real opportunity is here. So, for example, in food service, the word is that 25 out of 100 food service establishments will reopen. Only 25% will make it. Okay. Well, who is that going to be? Obviously, it's folks like us or bigger or even a little bit smaller in the franchise world. Can you imagine trying to open a business right now or at the theoretical other side of this? How would you do that as an individual? How could you figure it out? You can't. You're stuck in your home. Mm-hmm. We actually have all the tools. And so what the other side looks like is more of this.
After yesterday's conversation, I was talking with Brett Larrabee, who does development for Little Caesars, and he said what's pointing to him is how many brands, whatever normalcy returns that we're able to leave our homes, how many brands are going to sit there and not change anything. How many brands we created a term yesterday. Charles created a term, zombie brands, the ones that really there's nothing there. There's no soul. So it's going to be interesting on the other side. I agree with you, Bob, that normal is a new term that I think people are trying to come to grips with. But I think the other thing that is is refreshing to me, and I think you're probably having this with your AMAs, are people that are willing to be vulnerable, because so often in franchising, you go to any show and you're like, how are you doing? And everybody is doing amazing, and everybody is making money. And nobody sits there and says, hey guys, let's be honest. Yeah, we're having a bad year. This is turbulent for us. We're struggling to figure it out because we don't have those conversations. We never get into a room like this to actually say, all right, there's expertise here. Let's try to figure this thing out. So, new normal, hopefully, the longer this goes on and the more stressed people get, it might push people to the edge to just come out and say, yeah, I'm scared. And it's okay that I'm scared. I don't know what to do with my brand. I don't know how to support my franchisees. I don't know what to even tell them. Is anybody out there to help? And if us as a community, if we are truly a franchise community, then people will put down the competitive guardrails and come out and say, let's try to figure this out together, because we're all trying to figure it out together. And so the statement is, I agree with you that today is the new normal. This is normal for life right now as we know it, and there's nothing we can do about it. We have no control. Frankly, we've never had control of life. We don't get to dictate the diseases we get. We don't get to dictate what happens to other people. We don't get to dictate when franchisees buy. We don't get to say that I bought an ad in this newspaper, I'm going to get leads. We've never had control. So one, I hope this shakes up some brands, because if it does, then those 25% that take off, there could be emerging brands in there that said, you know what, I'm scared. Help me out. Let's start putting the layers in, and let's use the next few months to try to really understand what our values are. Not pretend like we had them, but really try to understand. It's more of a comment than anything. But Bob, I appreciate that statement, and all of you. I appreciate a conversation like this, because the faster we get to real, the faster we can find recovery, in my opinion.
And thanks to you guys for creating this forum to do just that. This is great stuff.
I agree. Yeah, I think
Charles?
Oh.
Charles?
No, go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Please, Eric.
Well, I just wanted to kind of dovetail off of Bob and Lisa and what you said too, Nick. I mean, I think as franchisors, as leaders, we're expected to have all the answers. Candidates are buying a business because they're looking for a proven system, and there's comfort as a business owner in a duplicated system and best practices. And this is how it goes from point A to point Z. If you do these things, this should happen. Being open and being real. We haven't dealt with this before. This is a once in a lifetime or once in a century thing. It's okay to say we don't have all the answers, but what I think a franchisee or an aspiring franchisee can appreciate is the willingness of a franchisor to be open-minded, to ask questions of their system, get feedback. How can we be better? How can we better support you? What do you need from us? And here are some things we think we can do to help you. I think if I'm looking at a franchise concept, I think it's a really good time to look at one, frankly, whether or not you do it or not, but it's how are you supporting your system right now? At this time frame, and what are you as a franchisee getting from your franchisor, and are they listening, and are they hearing you and giving you the tools to help you continue growing your business, or at least stay afloat for this time? And I think it says a whole lot about a franchisor and how they respond at this moment. It will define us. A lot of the franchises out there, it will ultimately define those that come out of this in good shape, and do the right things with their owners, make the right decisions and support them. I think those are the franchisees and franchisors that will weather these storms, in my opinion.
I agree with Eric's point and Lisa and Bob's too, which it's been a consistent conversation. Bob talking about this is the new normal. That's very practical and wise. And the new normal may mean that the pool of prospective franchisees now grows, because now entrepreneurs that would have been on their own are going to be in the pool of prospective franchisees. And I think that's a big trend. And then getting to Nick's point and about the values, talk about leaning into vulnerability. We have our as a franchise law firm, we have our quarterly traction meeting today, one of the first things we're going to do is just go over our core values, our brand values, right? Which matters to our team. And then look at numbers. We're on track for a record year, January, February, off a record year last year. Now, you know what? Life throws a curveball, and that'll be fine too, because I know one thing, it's going to be good on the other side. And the only comfort I'm going to have is we'll start with our core values. So all these things work together. I think sort of a compass, right? And if you don't have that foundation, you're going to get lost, and you may get lost in a hurry. So, but I do think the positive is entrepreneurship now changes, and that pool for the strong brands, whether emerging or not, because for me, what matters more than how big we are gets back to what everyone here is talking about, which are core values, what we stand for, because that's what people are going to want to align with, you know, post-COVID-19. So that makes me feel good. I mean, I'm going to try to avoid news the rest of the day, but that's what I'm taking away from this.
Are you guys, do you guys practice EOS?
Yeah, we do. Bob.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, so Entrepreneur's Operating System for everyone's listening, Traction. So Bob, I found, you know, it transformed everything we did a number of years ago. Yeah. Right. So I can't even imagine. I mean, we have our weekly Traction meeting with our scorecards. We have the big quarterly one coming up. And I reflect on years ago how we operated without it, right?
Yeah. Complete tragedy before that point in time.
Right? Yeah. And I'm like, how stupid was I? Right. But it's funny too, Bob, because, you know, everyone talks about core values. One is we go above and beyond without expectations and all, right? And it sounds fluffy, but it's real. And then all of a sudden, marketing is not marketing. It's sincere value and beliefs. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Are you guys having a quarterly meeting coming up?
Yeah, for sure. You know, and you know, we right now we're doing our L10s daily, just because things are moving so quickly, and that might sound a little crazy, but we're still using the L10 format. And but in terms of those core values, the thing that the EOS process brings out, and we did a good job on our core values prior to that moment in time, I would say. But what EOS pulls out really is the DNA of an organization. So even though sometimes people's core values sound similar, somehow in the EOS process, you're able to pick out the little nuances of an organization that are quite a bit different. And often if it's founder driven, what you find is deeply embedded in there is the founder values. And that's really valuable, I think. I do want to address, by the way, this idea of, you know, how franchising is going to change, because I know the answer was for many that it's technology, and what I would say is whatever on technology. Of course, technology is changing things for us. It always has, it always will, and so on and so forth. That's actually not a new game. I think the new game, particularly understanding that the generation that's coming in behind. You know, I'm 56 years old. The generation coming in behind me after the Gen Xers is the millennial generation. And, you know, they're soon the largest population. These ideas of core values, super important to them. But where I think franchising is going to change is this. So today, for example, we have a town hall meeting with all of our owner operators every day at 3:30. Now that's sort of crisis driven, that particular cadence. But what's happened in there, if I were to say sort of like this, that we are crowdsourcing problems in those town halls, right? We're crowdsourcing problems. And so what's going to change in franchising is it's going to be less parental, but the franchisor will be the center of the collective, is the way I would say that. Now, that leans a little bit like socialist kind of language, but I don't think it's that far off from where our millennial generation might be looking to have consideration in participating in something like a franchise organization.
You know, I think it's an interesting shift. You know, and then we've been talking. There's going to be, Bob, brands that survive and have the capital, but they're not going to realize they didn't survive.
That's right.
You know, and they may not know for a year. It's going to be zombies, you know, zombie brands. And it's interesting because the mindset you just articulated, I think that's a framework for every business. And certainly I think that's the positive in franchising. You know, and that's where I'm going to be rooting for the brands we work with and represent, and brands like yours and like Lawn Doctor and ecomaids who have an interest in, and Mosquito Hunters. All, you know, it just so turns out it's not a coincidence. You know, solid management teams and core values. So, yeah. But that's interesting. The socialism stuff scares me, right? But but Bob, that says a lot, that statement. So that's, I think, where brands need to transition to.
And you know, I probably shouldn't have brought up the word socialism. What I really mean is, you know, there's a movement called conscious capitalism that
Sure.
takes into account, you know, all the stakeholders and all decision makings, and trying to always get to the win-win-win. And so I didn't mean to sort of.
No, I'm joking. By the way, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm like, in my imaginary head, I'm like ultra libertarian, and right. Meanwhile, I don't know what, but no, I'm joking with that.
Yeah.
But like, that's good capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, conscious capitalism, like, you know, that, you know, I love that you guys refer to your franchisees as stakeholders, right? To me, that's not socialism. That's honest, genuine capitalism where we rise all boats and we help each other. To me, it's the most compassionate thing, right? So, yeah, other than my imaginary thing, I have this whole thing in my head, but no, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I think conscious capitalism is the bridge or the link that brings us all together. We can all subscribe to that philosophy.
Yeah.
So as we take this turn, I would love to get just final thoughts, final statements. Eric, why don't we start with you? How are you going to do the next few weeks? How are you going to hang in there? And any final thoughts you have?
You cut out a little bit before the final thoughts when you said the next few weeks. What was the question, Nick?
Just how are you going to handle it? How's it going to be for you? And then just any final feedback you want to say before we sign off.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity here today. First of all, it's been great. I've picked up some things and learned from Bob and Lisa and Charles and you as well, Nick. I think I'm a big glasses half full, not to sound corny person. My team and I are focused on supporting our franchise owners through a unique time. I mean, look, this isn't good for anyone. Timing of this is not good for anyone, but when you're in a seasonal business, or at least a couple of our franchises being, you know, spring, summer seasons are ramp times. And we're doing our best to provide the tools and support to existing owners and help them get through this time. And I do think our human nature is we want to get back to some level of normalcy. So I do think we'll continue to see our business and our owners have success throughout this, even with the environment we're in. From a development perspective, and I agree with you, Nick, wholeheartedly. When you go to conferences, everyone's having their best year. We are certainly not having our best quarter, but business is steady. We're getting good lead flow. We're having very good conversations. Back to what I said earlier, we're nurturing our prospects, and we're going to continue to help them work through this. And, you know, Charles, with ecomaids in particular, I think Marriott, I don't even know what the number is right now. I think they've laid off over 10,000 people. Yeah. And it's tough on families, man. And we're engaging with ecomaids franchisees, and as they get started and trained, you got to look at the positives and the silver lining and say, look, you know, those are our people, you know, in hospitality or service workers that are going to be looking for good work. And you can really have an opportunity, making lemons out of lemonade, to come into this, or lemonade out of lemons to come into this at an opportune time to find some good staff, because that's a big challenge in that particular industry. So long story short, we're going to stay positive. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing for a long time at Happinest, and provide great support to owners and helping candidates, you know, continue down this path with us. and nurture them and come out of this strong. That's our plan.
And Bob?
Well, I don't think it's about being optimistic, and I don't think it's about being hopeful. And I know that sounds sort of weird to say. I think it's about this, and this is the way I close out every town hall meeting. It's that this applies to franchise world or your family or anybody, but it's that we're stronger, that we're smarter, and that we're better together. That's it. That's the thing that matters.
Love it. Lisa, final thoughts?
Pivot. Work hard. We always worked hard. We have challenges. We always had challenges. We'll always have challenges. Just have to adapt and adjust to what's going on, and great leadership shines.
Charles?
Yeah, it's not much I can add. I take in Lisa's point, right? This is an opportunity to see what we're all about, and Bob and everyone else's point about doing this together. And so I thank guys, Eric, Bob, Lisa, Nick. I personally took a lot out of this, and I appreciate that.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say is there was a time when all of us were getting into business, or franchisees were getting into business. That first dollar bill came, and we took that dollar and we framed it and put it on the wall, and it felt so good. And the reality is, all we had was $1. So there was a moment when we were on the climb up that it felt tremendous. That if you can change your mindset, to know like yesterday is gone and tomorrow is $1, and try to feel that excitement of putting that first dollar on your wall, then at least you can look at this differently. I'm sure so many people's net worths have been hurt by the situation, whether it was forced by a job layoff or it was you're in business and sales have decreased a little. Whatever it was, we're all in that same boat. But if we can look at tomorrow as trying to get our first dollar and have that pivot and the mindset and the values and being vulnerable, I think we got a shot to do something special on the other side of this. And I look forward to the day that the media goes away from here's how many new cases there are to here are all the success stories that we've seen. And that's going to be a day where we know normalcy, the new normalcy can start with positivity. So I greatly appreciate all of you giving us some time. I appreciate the franchise community. That's what we're trying to do here. Anybody that watched this, hopefully you got some good nuggets out of it. Everybody stay safe and best of luck as we continue to navigate these choppy waters. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.